Welcome to the next video on the Insignia that I've been working on the rear brakes. When I took off the rear discs and pads and I had a look at the components, I could see there were some seals that were really badly knackered. They're really far gone. So I've bought a couple of kits off eBay, which took a few days to arrive. I've now got them, and this video is going to talk about how to rebuild the actual components of the rear caliper themselves. The principles are pretty much the same for any car of this type of brake system. So I would encourage you to think about replacing rather than replacing individual components rather than scrapping and getting rid of an entire assembly. If it can be saved, save it. I'm in a t-shirt working outside in February, which is mega. So yeah, it's absolutely stunning day today. In fact, I need to be careful I don't get any sunburn on my head. Right, let's get this done. See you in a minute. So tools for the job, we're going to need a couple of mole grips. These are just for pinching off the brake line so we don't lose loads of brake fluid, and also we don't want to get any balls or mess up the brake vacuum. I've got a couple of bits of cardboard. You can use cloth, you can use a bit of rubber if you had it. That's just going to go around the brake pipe, and then the mole grip's going to go around that, and it just spreads the load, stops me from pinching the pipe too hard. I don't want to cause a split or a tear. Got the kit itself, so got this kit times 2. You can see we've got some hydraulic reassembly paste, and we've got some grease as well. Within the kit you've got the main inner seal, which is really important. That stops the brake fluid coming out of the caliper as the seal comes in and out. As the piston comes in and out. You've got a seal that goes around the piston, which is the first issue that I really noticed on these back brakes. So they both need changing both sides. And you've got the outer seals for the calipers, which also need replacing. You've got some spare inner seals, and you've got a spare seal for the actual bleeder valve as well. I don't know whether I'll need to use them or not, but if they need replacing, I've got them, and if not, they're just going to toolkit as spares. Other bits and pieces, I've got some brake cleaner, a little bit of blue roll, something with a decent flathead on, and something with some small flatheads on, or if you've got them picks just to get the seals out. It can be a good idea to have a decent pair of pliers on hand as well, just in case you've got any problems. The normal rule when you're working on brakes is don't touch the brake pedal, but I need to press the brake pedal to push the piston out. Once I've done that, I'm then going to pinch off the actual brake pipe itself to stop any more fluid coming out. So it's going to stop it dripping everywhere, but while it's coming out and before I pinch that off, I need to contain any drips. So I've got a little drip tray down there. Brake down, brake off, brake down, brake off, brake down, brake off, brake down, brake off. Okay, so that's free now, so I'm going to clamp the brake line. Okay, let's see if that's worked. Yeah, looks like that's clamped pretty well. Okay, let's get the other side clamped as well quickly. Okay, so this is the piston from the other side. Doesn't look too bad. It's going to want a clean, but there's nothing there that's looking particularly scary. So the face of the piston itself is pretty good. It's dirty, wants a clean, but pretty happy with that. That's going to clean up okay. So I'm just going to point out some of the components on this assembly. So you've got the actual gaiter itself, which is going to pull free like that. It's got an inner seal on it, and that locates just behind this lip, so you can see it coming out there, and that's that free. So that's completely disintegrated. That's all that's left of the actual original inner seal, the original gaiter. So there's literally no gaiter on the actual piston. Just going to quick clean up inside there. There we go. So that's come out fine now. That's actually in really good nick. There's no problems with that. It's still very flexible. It's not split or cracked or anything. This component is really important because as the actual piston slides in and out, what this does is it almost twists on the piston going out and coming back in like that. Yeah, obviously it doesn't twist that much inside, but the reason that's important is it stops the brake fluid, which is this side, from travelling past the piston, so you don't actually have brake fluid inside the piston boot itself and the piston assembly. So we have grease that side and hydraulic fluid this side. So when I reassemble this, I'll use a hydraulic reassembly paste, which I'll also use on the inside lip to get the piston boot back on. Before I reassemble, we'll have a quick look at this. So I'm just going to give it a spray with some brake cleaner and give it a quick clean. Just looking in at the piston on the driver's side, you can see there's a very small bit of scoring on the main body of the piston. I think I'm okay with that. I think I've caught it just in the nick of time. You can't really feel it, so I don't think it's going to cause much friction. Ideally I'd get a new piston, but that's just going to put more delay on this job, and I just want to get these components reassembled and get on with everything else. It's not bad. Likewise, the worst bit of damage on the piston, the worst bit of pitting is underneath here where the seal is going to locate. Because it's clean metal either side of that, I think I'm okay with that. And again, on the actual piston ring itself, there's a bit of kind of pitting there. That's not a problem. That's not actually got any functional job to do, so it's not going to come into contact with anything. So when I reassemble all of that, I'll give it a good clean off again, but in general condition these are okay. It's just that one little mark there, as I said, which difficult to see because I've got dirty gloves, but you have to take my word for it, it's not that bad, but it is a little mark. I'll have a look at the other side. If the other side is worse than that, then I might just have to pause this job and get those parts, but let's just see how it is. I'm going to go and get the other side, and I'll speed up the footage so you don't have to watch me cleaning them in real time. Right, so this one is from the passenger side. You can probably see there is a bit more marking. Again, it's very, very light surface marking. Inner side of the seal, where the seal locates, absolutely fine on this one. We've got all that pitting going around that side as well. The face is reasonably clean. There's a bit of rust just starting to creep in now. I've had a good go at that. Yeah, they're okay. They're okay. I think if these were any further gone, it'd be replacement parts, and because you really want to be doing these things in axle pairs, there'll be 2 new pistons. It's not the cost, it's not a problem. They're quite easy to undo. There's a circlip in here, squeeze it together, that removes this clip. Then you've got a series of washers holding in this spindle. You can see the spindle is threaded, so when it comes to rewinding the caliper back on, that's what it's being rewound with, onto the actual threaded spindle, which you can see down here. And that's why on these brakes you need the rewind tool. You can get away with bodging it with anything that you can get compression onto this part just to push the piston back, but the problem with doing that is you're pushing it back and relying on the thread itself to do the turning. You're putting a lot more stress on the components doing that, and you're also much more likely to rip or tear the new seals you put on. So much better to get the caliper rewind tool, which twists as it pushes back, so it's always keeping it properly seated, keeping the pressure uniform, and only applying the right amount of pressure to actually push it back. So yeah, so it's a better tool to use. I'm going to start reassembly now. Okay, so now I'm going to just give my hands a bit of a wipe, because when I'm reassembling I don't want any bits of crud to go in there. So I'm going to start off with some hydraulic assembly paste around the inner seal. Just give it a little mix up before you tear open a small little bit at the corner. Don't want too much because you don't want this to go all over the place. Right, so now that's had a decent coat of the hydraulic reassembly grease, I'm just going to locate it into the inner side here. Doesn't matter if I get a bit of this grease around any of the other inside bits, because that's fine. This is the side we want to be using the hydraulic assembly grease on. There we go, that's seating in now. Okay, so that's in. Happy with that. With a new seal, this outer bit, this is the way it's going to face. This outer bit is going to locate inside the lug there, and the inner bit is going to locate on the inside of the ring there. So the best way to do this is to push it on from the front, but then get it all the way to the back, but put it over the right way and just travel it down the piston a little bit. Be firm but gentle. There we go, about halfway is probably about right. And what you can see now is I've got that just overhanging the back edge of the piston, and that means I've got a good handle to hold on to while I'm locating that into the right place. So again, I'm just going to use a little bit of assembly paste. Bearing in mind as well that if that inner seal's doing its job, then it's going to stop any brake fluid getting onto this bit. But it's just, this is kind of the last point I'm going to use the assembly paste at, and then I'm going to switch to the normal multi-purpose grease. So I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to try and hook it in at the bottom because that's going to be harder to get to, and then press it home at the top, just using a flat edge. There it is, it's going in okay. Go all the way around and make sure it's just fits in okay, just seating properly. Don't want to pinch it up, just want to press it down. So that's probably a little bit tight there, so let's just ease that off a bit. Okay, that's good, that's looking good, happy with that. Okay, now what I can do is just find the thread on the inside. I'll know when I get it. Feels like I've got it there, just. There we go, you can see I've got it because that's just all located and firmed up a little bit. It's not tight, but it's just located and firmed up. Bit of blue roll again. Take the time just to give this a good little clean. Just recheck you're in position all the way around, check underneath because that's where it's easy to miss it. Well, that looks fine to me from where I'm looking. Give that a little clean because you don't want to be coming back repeatedly to do similar jobs. Give everything a quick clean at once. Always clean your cleaner component before you move to your dirty component, so you wipe your sleeve before you start messing about with the dirty bits there. Silicone brake grease. I'm going to want to use this on the inside of the sliders as well. So again, I only want a tiny little bit of this. I've got some more multi-purpose grease if I start running low on this. Okay, so I've got my corner torn off there. Again, just a little squeeze on there. Don't need loads, that's absolutely plenty. That's probably a little bit too much to be fair. And then just take your finger and just smear that one way and then the other. Make sure you get it underneath. give the component a little turn on if you can. It'll be difficult by hand. I need to get the brake rewind tool on there, but just give that a little smothering of grease. Doesn't have to be loads, that's plenty, just a bit more on the top part of the piston. And then when I'm rewinding this, it's going to locate itself. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just double checking which component I want out of the rewind tool, and it's component F. So I've got the right hand side tool, I've got my backing plate there, and I've got component F. Component F goes onto the tool like that. It's magnetised, so that stays on. And then what I want to do now is get the actual rewind tool onto there. So I've given it just a good half turn there. I can just continue greasing around the side there. Good job I did as well, because that's that bit there that's a bit pitted, so I want to make sure I've got some grease on that. I'll just pop a little bit more grease on there, just because that's the pitted bit there. I want to make sure I've lathered that in a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to continue rewinding this back. Eventually I'm going to get enough space, enough clearance to get the backing plate in, but right now I don't need it. There we go, we're in. And then this becomes an easier one-handed operation. So watching this seal now, let's continue to turn it on. That's just located there. So it's just popped on nice and easy, as simple as that. And I'll just keep rotating this home to push the actual caliper back. You can see the caliper seal now is folding back on itself the correct way, so that's a good thing. And this is working absolutely fine. There's no grit or friction or resistance. It's turning nice and easily. Using the right tool makes the job a lot easier. There we go, so that's all looking quite flush now. There we go, we've got the piston back in, the new seal on, all ready to rock and roll for the next stage of the assembly. So the next job I'm going to tackle is the actual rebuild of the brake pad carriers. So brake pads themselves go in each side of here, but the bits I'm going to particularly look at are these sliding pins. I'm definitely going to replace these seals. They're a bit manky. This one's actually quite seized, so that needs re-greasing, and you can see that what's inside there already is black, so that's quite nasty. And on this side, yeah, again, the seal's actually still intact, but it's just a bit old, so I'm going to replace them, re-grease the sliders, reassemble everything. Okay, so one side done and reassembled. The trickiest bit was getting the bottom part of a new seal onto the brake carrier. Just give it a quick wipe and clean, and these are ready to start reassembling. Do the same on the other side now. On there, so a little bit of brake cleaner and just a rub over once with a wire brush will sort them out nice. Just dry it off with some blue roll, they'll be good to go again. If you need to replace them, about 20 quid, which is a bit unnecessary really. They're only little clips. It's got a bit cold and it looks like it's going to rain, so I'm going to get on with this. I'm going to absolutely knacker my hands using the wire brush. So the top tip is to have a heavier duty pair of gloves on the hands that you're going to hold the component with. That just protects your hands a little bit more. This is how we're looking now. We've got them clean enough. They don't need to be perfect. They're going to have some copper grease put on them anyway as part of the reassembly. I get worried if I do them too much. You can see that one start to twist. I really don't want to spend 20 quid just because I've twisted them, so it's not about being too enthusiastic, it's just about getting the worst of the crud off. Literally just so it sits properly, that's all I want it to do, is sit properly. And I had the one grub screw from the driver's side that came off that I've cleaned up as well. I've got the brake carriers ready to go back on. I've got my pads and my discs, and I've got the actual brake pistons already rewound, ready to go back on. I've left them clamped off because I don't want them to come back out. The next video is going to be the reassembly and the testing of the brakes, and then that is this job done. Today's taken about 2 hours actually, all told, so a bit of faff with a reassembly. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm saving a fair bit of money doing the job and I want to get it right. I will leave the chip tray underneath there. You can see on this side, the driver's side, the actual seal itself, the inner seal I should say, was in pretty good nick, but the outer boot absolutely kaput. Haven't showed you the passenger side yet. You know, that's not stuff on the inner seal, that's actually just the inner seal itself corroding, and this is absolutely knackered. I mean, look, it's in absolute tatters, and again you can see it's actually chewed up on the inside. That caused quite a bit of work when it came to reassembly because I had to pull some flaking rubber out from inside the actual caliper itself. So good job I've done this, because it just was not going to be okay to continue to use this. Right, it's a fair bit freezing to be honest, so I've just got inside the car to sign off this video and I think it's looking okay. Had a real pig of a job to get the seals to locate onto the actual hanger side of the sliders. That was a bugger. Nice little technique using my finger inside, so I hope that's useful if you ever find yourself doing that job. And as always, please like and subscribe to the channel, but please as well, it makes a massive difference to me if you put some comments in with any tips or ideas to improve the channel, anything you'd like to see, anything I'm doing that you'd like me to stop doing. I've picked it up on some of that as I'm editing the videos, but you know, everything you see helps me to tailor this more to you guys, because at the end of the day, this job would take a fraction of the time if I wasn't trying to video every step and then edit it and get it out. So I'm hoping it's useful, because that's what I'm trying to do with this. I look forward to the next video. In that you will see the complete job, absolute no bust. It's going to get done. I'm going to do that tomorrow because I want this vehicle back. It's been off the road now for about 4 days and that's an absolute nose. In fairness, most of that was waiting for the seal kit, so when I've had the kit, it's not taken long to do. I will see you on the next video. Thank you for your time.